Well, hello there, and here we go. Hopefully you can hear this video much better. I think I figured out the sound issue. One of the things that technology, I don't know if you remember that movie, Napoleon Dynamite, I love you, you see, but not as much as you, not as much as you love me, or something like that. And there was all about this technology, right? This talk of we can't live with it and we can't live without it. We absolutely need technology, and yet sometimes it breaks, right? And there's systems that are broken, and sometimes it doesn't work as well as we hope. And so my apologies. One of the things that happens in a class like this with online education is there's always some hiccups. And there's always some misunderstandings, and there's always lack of communication, and there's always some confusing aspects of things. And what I like to equate that to is really the career development process. Okay, I want to tell you a story to lead into where we're headed for the rest of the semester. And if you feel like, man, I'm behind, I haven't turned things in, I had some issues with technical issues with the well-being assessment and all of that, let me just right now alleviate any concern or fear. Don't worry, okay? And I know I'm not supposed to tell people how to feel, but let me just say that. Don't worry, we're good, okay? It's the first week of class, we're easing in. Tomorrow's a holiday, right? Monday for Labor Day, so nothing's going to happen on Monday. Everything's going to get situated. I'm going to fix everything in Canvas for the first unit and then the ensuing units, and we're going to be good, right? So I'm going to tell you a bit about where where we're headed and what it is that I am expecting you to do in this upcoming term. In this upcoming unit. But just know that I know that a lot of you are folks that like to have everything kind of in order and make sure that things are done properly. And when things seem to be a little bit awry or there's problems, you can easily get a little overwhelmed. But I just want to encourage you that right now, there's no need for that, okay? So let me tell you a story, and it's a personal story, and the story goes like this, because this is how it happened, okay? In 2007, I had just finished graduate school. I had started working 4 years prior, full-time, finished my undergraduate degree, went to grad school, was working full-time, and I had a job, and one of the first rules of thumb when it comes to career is never leave a job before you have another job, okay? So, and I know there's always, extenuating circumstances, and there's an exception to this rule and that, but for the most part, it's safe to say you should never leave a job until you have a job, okay? The other thing that I throw out there all the time is the best time to look for a job is when you have a job, and the second best time to look for a job is when you don't have a job. So, you chalk that up, there's never a bad time to look for a job. Well, I committed the cardinal sin and left a job without having a job, and then I went and traveled and gallivanted around the world, went to Europe for a little over 3 weeks, and Hawaii for a week with family, and just kind of, took it all in and was living the high life. Flew back in from Rome, not many people can say that, but I got off the plane from Rome, and I flew from Los Angeles up to Sacramento and interviewed for a position at my previous university, where I had worked right out of undergraduate and had actually been referred for this position, had all the experience, the education they were looking for, thought for sure I was going to get the job, didn't get the job. They actually ended up offering it to somebody else who was there for 10 months, and then they left. My intent was to be there for a really long time because I wanted to make my life in this city. I wanted to make my life at the university. And they ended up giving it to somebody else, and didn't work out. And that was fine. It was all part of what God had for me, all part of His plan. But I was devastated. And I went on to apply for 217 jobs over the next 9 months. 217 jobs in 9 months. That's a large number. And so, it wasn't until I had a friend whose wife was just laid off some months back, and she applied for well over 217 jobs. And I said, I'm not sure if I should applaud you or cry with you. And, great news. She was just offered a position. She starts here relatively soon. So excited for her. It's great. But for me, it was devastating, right? And then there's lots of things that I'll kind of harken back to and pull into the conversation that we'll have over the semester. But as I went through this process, 217 jobs, very few interviews, incredibly challenging, lots of setbacks, really hard. Man, I'll tell you what, I was so discouraged, and I didn't know what services were available for me to call upon. I didn't know what a career counselor was. I didn't know what a career coach was. I didn't even know what my career center at my university had to offer me. I didn't even know what questions to ask. And I think a lot of times the confusion that you may experience, especially when there's a breakdown in communication, technology is not working, in a class like this, what you just experienced perhaps in the first week of class is akin to, in some ways, what it is that we go through when we're in the career development process. We're in the career search, when we're in the job hunt, when we're trying to figure out what we want to do next. I had a conversation with a guy this evening, and he was talking about just asking for us to pray for his wife because she was been out of work for about a year. And she's had odd jobs here and there, and there's income, and there's no income, and there's income, and there's no income. And, I said, hey, I've been doing this work for, a long time. It's what my full-time work is. It's what my side work is. It's what my teaching work is. I live and breathe career development, jobs, and so forth. So I'd be happy to talk with her and help her to even figure out what it is that she wants to do. Because she came out of a parachurch ministry, worked on a college campus for a number of years, and now she's just not sure. I didn't know that those resources, the things that I've been doing now for well over a decade, I didn't know that those things were available. So when I got my job back in 2008, and again, it was a 9-month period of time, 217 job applications. When job 217 finally cracked and I got that job, a couple months in, I said, this is, there's something about work that doesn't give you dignity. No one can give anybody dignity, right? So as image bearers, right, as those who are made in the image of God, we have innate dignity because we've been given that, we've been endowed that by the Creator. But there is something very affirming about work, right? That affirms our dignity. When we're working and we feel like we're doing what we're meant to do or what we were created to do, it's very encouraging and affirming. And finally, when I got that work, I said, I'm going to do everything I can in my power to help other people not have to experience the things that I went through. And so that was, January of 2009 is when I started doing this career work, and I started to develop this class in August of 2011 and started teaching this class in January of 2012, and I've been teaching ever since, every semester. I've been doing this work for well over a decade, 11 years now, going on 12, right? So 2009 into 2020. I mean, it's been a long time I've been doing this work. And I love this work because I understand how important and powerful a good job can be for people. Some years back, Gallup did a poll. It was a global poll, unlike anything that had ever been conducted. And they asked people around the world what was the number one thing on their mind, right? What is the thing they wanted the most? And it wasn't world peace. It wasn't, reduction in climate change. It wasn't, CO2, any of those things, right? It wasn't no more war. The number one thing on people's minds, the number one thing that people wanted more than any other thing in the world, globally, across the world, was a good job. Was a job that paid well or had a living wage, that had benefits and so forth. That was the number one thing because people realize, we know personally, we know just it's ingrained in us that a good job, it affirms our dignity. it changes our lives. Good jobs change our lives. It's true. It's absolutely true. And so for the last, like I said, 11, 12 years, that's been my intent, it's been my desire. It's been the thing that I've wanted to do. And I've been doing that work. And so here we are in this class, and I understand there's some confusion, perhaps some frustration. And part of me, I love kind of that correlation, that example, because that's what happens when you're on the job front, when you're on the job hunt, right? When you're looking for something, when you're trying to find that next opportunity, when you've just finished graduate school, some of you will real soon, and some of you will a little bit later. And you can't seem to find or land that first job doing the thing that you went to school and you spent all this time, money, and effort to accomplish, and you just feel like, ah. And I understand that a class like this, with 6 days of learning so far and some challenges that may have incurred, it kind of pales in comparison, right? So you realize that my student loans are going to come up in 6 months to be paid. I can't find work, my rent's due, right? Maybe you're being supported by somebody through grad school, and then once grad school's over, that's done, and they're going to give you like a month of grace, and then after that, hey, you got to figure it out on your own. And things get really dicey really fast, right? They're really challenging. And I think that's what happens in a class like this sometimes. And so my apologies for some of the confusion, but again, I just want to alleviate any concern But I do think it can help us in some ways empathize with individuals as we're working with them in the future, potentially doing this work. Maybe you incorporate career development work in your practice, and you can then empathize with them and provide them great resources so that some of the things you've experienced or things you've heard others, like what I just shared with you, have experienced, they don't have to experience themselves. Right, so maybe some of you are thinking, what does this class have to do? Right, why am I taking a career development class in a marriage and family therapy program? And now, obviously, you know that you're here because you can, qualify for dual licensure as an LMFT and an LPCC. That's great. But my hope and prayer is that this is so much more for you than just licensures, right? So just qualification for dual licensure. My hope is that you'll take this professionally and put it into practice in some way, shape, or form, right? I think that there's no corner of life that career doesn't touch on, whether it's young, old, in between. Career is such a huge impact because it's what we do with most of our lives. It's what we see other people in our families doing with most of their lives on a given daily or weekly basis, right? And we know that when folks are doing well in their career, typically they're happier, they're more fulfilled, right? They're more engaged, their strengths are more engaged. They're able to pay their bills. And when folks are potentially not doing well, then all of those things suffer. Now, there is not a one-to-one correlation between financial well-being and career well-being, as the text that we'll look at from Rath and Harder discusses, but they are closely connected. And if you kind of look at two circles, if my fists were two circles and this was a heart and this was money sign, right? So love and money. People can only do the thing they love if it doesn't pay the bill for so long, right? So the hope and the goal would be for us to take these two things, love and money, and have them merge and be able to love the work that we get paid enough to pay our bills. We love to do that. That's not always the case. And so we'll talk about a lot of that throughout the course of our time together over this semester as well. But I hope also, besides professionally, I hope it'll be helpful personally. I hope that you'll take this class and go, man, I'm now asking some questions myself about my career or about my trajectory in my. I know I want to do this type of work, but I don't know where I want to do it. Or I thought I wanted to do this type of work, but I've realized through the time of being in this course, it caused me to ask some questions. And I'm super glad that I got this degree. I enjoyed my time in the program. However, I'm realizing that there's more to what I may be able to qualify doing than just traditional clinical psychology and marriage and family therapy. Perhaps that's the case, and that's exciting. So I hope you'll kind of look at it two ways, both how is it going to help you professionally and how is it going to help you personally? And maybe it'd even be flip. How will it help you personally? And in turn, how will that then help you professionally, right? Because I don't think we can lead other people if we can't first lead ourselves. We can't understand other people if we don't first understand ourselves well, right? So it's the cart before the horse, or it's really the question of the chicken before the egg. And I think that it's not either or, it's both and. So these are important content, this is important class, this is important, just everything we'll look at. So this week, we've got about a minute or two left in this video on my limit of 15 minutes. I'll always try and go under 15 minutes for a video. I'll try and do one at least once a week, sometimes multiple. Hopefully the syllabus was able to open up for you. I'm going to correct everything tomorrow. If there's any issues, I'm going to go troubleshoot things on my day off, and I'm going to encourage you, take the day off. Don't think about this class, okay? When you log back in on Tuesday, everything should be fixed and you should be good, right? Due dates will be fixed, everything. So here's what I'm asking for you to do. By the end of this unit, okay, everything that you see, if you click on Unit 1, you will see there's an instructor video, which is this. There's a video by Mike Rowe called Dirty Jobs. He's the host of Dirty Jobs. There's 2 articles to read. There's some introductions, some questions that you'll respond to. There's the Schwen and Bass entry and discussion. So if you look in the syllabus, you will see that the exact sections of the text that you're supposed to read are listed in the appendix. Okay, so you'll find that there. And then you will continue on. You'll see all of these things: introduction, Schwen and Bass, entry and discussion number 1. There's a case study, and then your well-being index results. Okay, you don't have to have read the book. There's a paper due at the end of Unit 2, but what I'm looking for you to have accomplished in Unit 1 is just to have taken the assessment. I've heard from some of you haven't been able to download your results. That's okay. A snapshot of what you've completed, right? If you can screenshot it, that's great. Just upload that and load that into the assignment section, okay? All of this is going to be due by the end of Unit 1, which takes place a week from today. Okay, a week from today is the 1st of September, so we're looking at about September 8th at midnight. I need you to have responded to all of the questions. I don't need you to engage in discussion unless, of course, you choose to. I would love to hear from all of you in an engaged discussion, and I'll talk more about that later on, but for now, just respond, okay? Hope that makes sense. Any questions, please email me, but like I said, I'll have everything updated, and we're good to go. You're not behind. It's going to be a great semester together.